And the corridor opened into a vast domed space, the rough living rock of its ceiling dotted with clumps of glowing crystals. Below it, a pool took up the entire cavern, except for the walkway around it, perhaps 5 paces wide. In the oval shape of an eye, the pool was lined around its rim with a low, flat edging of crystals that glowed with a duller, yet fiercer light than those above. Its surface was as smooth as glass and as clear as the wine spring water. Rand felt as if his eyes could penetrate it forever, but he could not see any bottom to it. The eye of the world, Moraine said softly beside him.
Hello, I'm Will, and this is my wife, Dallas.
Hi!
And this is Not the Beginning, a podcast where a longtime Wheel of Time fan and someone who's never read the series before read through each of the 14 books in this very long series. A warning, this podcast may not be suitable for younger audiences and will contain spoilers. If you've not read Robert Jordan's The Eye of the World, please proceed with caution.
On this episode of Not the Beginning, we will be diving in and discussing Chapter 47 through the end of The Eye of the World. I have not read anything from The Great Hunt or any of the next books, and Will is going to do his best not to bring in anything from the rest of those during our discussion. If you have finished The Eye of the World, then you should be good. If you haven't, I recommend pausing here and going to finish it.
Alright, last time we got to Faldara. The gang's going to the Eye of the World. This week, with chapter summaries again from DragonMount.com, the Emmonsfielders learn that Lan is the uncrowned king of Malkir, a nation swallowed by the Great Blight. Moraine interrogates Padden Fane, who admits to being worse than a Dark Friend. Fane believes the Dark One is free, or almost free, from his prison at Sheol Ghul in the Blight. While Faldaran's soldiers head north to Tarwin's Gap, Moraine's party slips into the Blight by another way. The plant life there is sickly and dangerous. The animals are worse. Nynaeve bears her heart to Lan, who clearly loves her back, but will not admit it. The terrors of the Blight close in, despite Moraine's channeling. Though they are still miles from where Moraine last found the Eye of the World, it comes to them, changing the land around it. Its guardian, the Green Man, welcomes the party. Moraine leads the party inside a hill to a pool of untainted Sidene. 2 strange men follow them down, introducing themselves as Agenor and Balthamel, 2 of the Forsaken who were once bound at Sheol Ghul with the Dark One. Even Moraine is no match for the 2 Forsaken. She urges the others not to fight, but they ignore her. The Green Man kills Balthamel, but is mortally wounded. Moraine buys time for the others to flee. Rand runs, pursued by Agenor. They fight over the flow of Sidene from the Eye of the World. Agenor cannot hold it all and bursts into flame. Rand sees in vision the battle at Tarwin's Gap, then finds Balsamon and strikes him with a sword made of light. Balsamon is apparently defeated. Rand finds the rest of his friends injured but alive. He realizes what he has done and tells Moraine that he won't be used as a false dragon. Where the Eye of the World once lay, they find the dragon's banner, the fabled Horn of Valir, and one of the 7 seals for the Dark One's prison, broken. The Blight is silent during their return journey, and Spring, coming 2 months late, is making up for lost time. Rand decides to leave his friends behind before he goes mad from the taint on Sidene. Moraine believes that the true dragon has been reborn. So, that's book 1. Book 1 down.
Yep.
It's long.
Really long.
And there's a whole lot of setup that is not paid off in this book.
Yup.
There's some that's set up. There's a lot of talk about the Eye of the World, and we learn about the Eye of the World.
Yeah, we did at least find out what the name of the book is.
That's true. It's real weird, and nothing like it shows up again.
Yeah, I have questions about it, but we can get to that.
Yeah, because before that, they traveled through the Blight, which, as I mentioned last time, is not a good place.
No, honestly, nothing good happens in this section.
No,
Nothing.
Everything is bad.
Everything is bad.
The only good thing gets burnt, and that's the Green Man. The Green Man's happy, the Green Man's nice. He's living in an awful place, but he makes a section of it very nice and homey and happy.
And he makes flower crowns.
Yeah.
And...
But then one of the Forsaken burns him.
Yeah.
Literally.
It's all bad.
Yeah.
None of it's good.
One of the things we first realize when walking through is they walk through what is essentially Lan's homeland.
Yeah, so they get through what is Lan's homeland, but it has been turned into the Blight.
Yeah, the Blight has overgrown it. Because before they even get to the Blight, there's still a little bit of this section that is in Faldara, where Moraine has interrogated Padan Fain, and also while that's happening, they start to learn more about Lan's backstory through Lord Egelmar.
Boy's had a rough life.
Boy has had a very rough life.
I feel so bad for Lan. He was taken as a baby and given a sword and proclaimed a diademed battle lord and the next king of the Malkyrie. And then
his parents died.
And then they took him and basically trained him from infancy to be a warrior.
Yup.
And then he tried to save his homeland, but then the Seven Towers got destroyed.
And basically Malkyr is no more. Malkyr is just a people now.
The land is the Blight, because when they're walking through the Blight, they camp out at the Seven Towers.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, poor Lan.
Egelmar makes a point to say that before Malkyr fell, Shinar, the country that Faldara is in, was basically sort of borderlands. Like they were borderlanders, but Malkyr was the true border. It was right
border
up against
to what?
The Blight.
Oh, so the Blight just absorbed it. It didn't become... The Blight was always there. It just absorbed
Right. The
Malkyr.
Blight grows.
Okay.
And so part of what the borderlanders try to do is prevent the Blight from growing.
Okay. And they failed with Malkyrie.
Right.
Okay. Got it.
I picture Malkyr kind of now as Asgard after Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's people.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things. Apparently, lots of the Borderlanders are descendant from Malkyrie people. And so if Lan were to ever raise the banner, the golden crane, that was the flag of Malkyr, if Lan were to ever raise the golden crane, an army would basically instantly form around it.
Yeah, he's not going to do that, though.
No, because he is dead set on carrying the burden of his dead homeland alone.
I know.
And only alone.
It's just...
Which leads to one of the most devastating lines you've ever heard.
I still can't cope.
Yeah, now seems like a pretty good time to talk about that, actually.
Okay. I have been utterly wrecked by this book. Lan, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Mandragoran.
His full name is Alan
Mandragoran has wrecked me.
He's dead. He's not dead.
He's not dead.
You're dead.
I'm dead. I have died.
So is Nynaeve's love life.
Because, okay, I read romance. I write romance. I have a book blog in which I talk about romance novels. So one could say that I read romance for a living.
Yeah.
I have not been so utterly wrecked by a romantic line in a book in a very long time. I have read 26 books this year.
And none of them
have come close to this line. I will hate the man you choose because he is not me, and love him if he makes you smile.
Yup.
I had to put the book down.
You did, for a few days.
Yeah. I couldn't cope. I had to go and I had to go and continue my reread of Red, White, and Royal Blue. Yep. Because at least I know that ends happy.
True. You don't know how this ends at all.
I don't. I just... Damn it, Lan.
Yep. And
it's a good line.
It's a good line, and even the stuff around it is good. For context, this is the part where Nynaeve bears her heart to Lan. Basically, Lan and Nynaeve confirmed a ship.
Yes.
And Nynaeve is apparently, this is through Rand's perspective, so we don't get really all of the context. There's enough, but Nynaeve is basically telling Lan that she loves him.
Yeah.
And Lan is like, one, I'll hate the man you choose. And he's basically saying this because he is, in his mind, sworn to live his life fighting the Blight. In the Blight. He's probably going to die. He's basically like, I can't marry you and have your only gift at your wedding the future of being a widow.
Yeah. No woman deserves the sure knowledge of widow's black as her bride piece. You least of all.
Right.
I've got the page open because I just can't.
You can't.
I can't.
No one can. It's great.
It's because Nynaeve starts with, some women don't ask for land or gold, just the man.
That's good.
It's a good line. And then Lan says, and the man who would ask her to accept so little would not be worthy of her. You are a remarkable woman, as beautiful as the sunrise, as fierce as a warrior. You are a lioness, Wisdom. Lan's got game!
He does. He does. And apparently wants to be involved with Nynaeve, but also doesn't want to.
Well, because he doesn't want... He's got a hero complex in this situation.
He does. Not an unearned one, though.
No, but still, like...
Because he's also bonded to Moraine as her warder. And you don't know what the warder bond means yet.
I don't know what it means yet. But clearly, it's not like a soulmate bond type thing. Because if it was some sort of soulmate bond, he probably wouldn't have even developed feelings for Nynaeve.
Right.
So it's not that deep of like it's not like a romantic bond, it seems to me. But
I mean,
also,
there's clearly like a deep friendship between Lan and Moraine. Because Lan is, as much as Lan seems to be into Nynaeve, he is a little bit more like tender and caring with Moraine at times.
Well, but then there's like a history there. We don't know how long Lan's been her warder. He clearly loves both of them.
Yeah, just in different ways.
Just in different ways. But when I say he's got a hero complex, it's like, yes, he is a hero. So, like, in theory, yes, he has a hero complex. But specifically with this, he doesn't get to make the decision for Nynaeve whether or not she wants to be with him or not.
That's true. And the way I read it...
He can choose whether or not to have her in his life. That is completely valid. But he doesn't get to tell her, you don't get to want me, which is basically what he's telling her in this situation.
I always read it as the latter, which is, I can't justify putting you through this.
But if she wants to be put through this, then it's not his choice.
It is still kind of his choice because he gets to choose whether or not he wants to inflict that on a loved one. The idea that you could be the one to inflict pain on somebody is also a valid reason to not do something.
Yeah, but why sacrifice possible happiness? Like, why sacrifice possible happiness for possible harm? Like,
I think because he sees it as certain harm. He sees it as...
It is certain harm, but also, like, Nynaeve is stubborn as shit, so she's not gonna go and choose someone else now just because Lan told her to.
Well, there is another aspect of this that I think...
So they could be happy for a little while until one of them dies.
Yeah, that's fair. I was gonna say there's another aspect to it, but I realized that might be minor spoilers, so I'm gonna avoid that. I think you're right in a lot of ways.
Like, you don't get... If someone wants to be with you, and, like, even with the possible harm that might come to the other person, I don't know where I'm trying to go. Like...
I think it's definitely valid to, on a personal level, it's valid to not want to cause harm to other people. And that can very easily come across as taking away the choice from them. But it's still, if you think of inflicting harm as a choice, it's still valid to choose not to inflict harm.
Yeah,
even if they want.
But you're still you're inflicting harm either way, because now Nynaeve's heartbroken.
Yeah, and she and Egwene have a little bit of a moment.
Yeah, that we don't get to see like, what the moment
we see what it is, we don't hear what they're talking about.
We don't hear what they're talking about. Egwene does come through with like good girlfriend moment.
Yeah. Because
Nynaeve's like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm thinking in that, like, filling in the gaps, Nynaeve's like, I don't want to talk about it. No, I'm not going to talk about it. And then Egwene takes the route of doing something to cheer her up.
Yeah. Which is a little interesting, because this is really the first time that we've seen Egwene be treated almost as an equal by Nynaeve. Because the whole time it's been Nynaeve versus Moraine in the battle for Egwene's soul, and Egwene's just kind of like been a chess piece.
Yeah, but I think in this moment, Nynaeve isn't thinking of herself as the wisdom anymore. She's just thinking of herself.
Maybe not.
Because she's in her head for that moment at least. She's just been reduced to a normal girl, and in that sense, a normal girl just wants a girlfriend.
Yeah, and I think part of it also is that she doesn't want to be the wisdom there too either, because she makes a point to say wisdoms don't often marry. You know, she's like, I'd marry for the right man. Hint, hint, Lan. But she also, I think, wants to not be herself.
She just wants to be a normal girl at that point, which is so valid, and it's why it wrecked me so much.
Yeah.
I had to put the book down for 2 days.
There's a lot of stuff going on there, on both sides. Lan has some good reasons, because by his backstory, people who are around him don't generally end up all that well.
I think what just bothers me about it is, and like, again, it not bothers me as in like, I hate the storyline. It's a good storyline. Yeah. Like, I think just almost what made me want to scream and what made me scream and almost throw the book across the room. But I didn't actually throw the book across the room because I don't want to hurt the book. It's just that, he didn't say, I can't be with you because I'm bonded to Moraine.
That would be
a very valid, I would like to be with you, but I'm basically already married. Right. Sorry, I can't.
Even if it's not a romantic thing, it's still like an oath.
Yeah. But he's not. He's trying to make it seem like he's doing her a service, and he's not.
Not necessarily.
Because if this is what she wants, then let her want. You can't tell her she can't want you.
That's fair. And like I said, I didn't read it as him saying that. I read it as him saying, here's why I can't do this to you.
And he was saying that in order to convince her not to want him.
Fair.
And it's not going to work because she's stubborn as shit.
She is from the Two Rivers.
Yeah.
And they are basically rocks in human form.
They are.
He's got stone face. She's got stone personality.
Yep.
It's a match made in heaven. We learned one fun thing about Lan. We learned something very interesting about Rand. The fun thing about Lan is Agelmar basically describes Lan as the best warder, which is to say that he's probably the best living personal combatant right now.
Yeah.
No wonder he fucks things up.
Which, and I mean, it kind of goes with what we've learned about Lan throughout, but there are certain things, I think somewhere in this chapter 90, or Moraine tries to stop him from going to do something, and she's like, not even you can... Oh, it was the worms. When they're... I have things about
They get chased by worms.
They get chased by worms. Big worms. Is this Dune?
No.
Are they the same type of worm as Dune?
No. Worms are... Basically, everything in the Blight is some sort of shadow spawn. Worms are a type of shadow spawn. We learn a very slight amount more about worms, but basically they're very, very dangerous. And they're not, as big as Dune worms, which are massive beasts, but they're still very deadly.
Okay. Because,
I think they're more actual, just super fucked up, genetically made monstrous earthworms, because Lan mentions that basically you have to cut them up into pieces and then burn them to kill them.
And so, and that's the moment before we went on a tangent about worms.
Yeah.
Tried to make up a word there and it did not work. So before the worm tangent, Lan is about to rush off to go defeat the worm, and Moraine's like, not even you can single-handedly take on a worm.
Right. Well, it's a worm pack. It's multiple worms. I wouldn't be too surprised if he took on one worm, because it's Lan.
But it's never just one worm.
No.
Even if you're just digging around in your garden, you're not just gonna find one worm.
No.
Worms are a group.
But I don't think that was his. Moraine did a good job of diverting him, but that was not his goal. Was to defeat them.
No, he was gonna go die.
Yeah, he was gonna go die. Lan's solution to everything is, well, time to go die.
Which, logistically, would make him a bad partner.
It would, for a lot of reasons.
But I don't think Nynaeve cares.
No.
But yeah, so that just, solidifies the, Lan is top warder.
Yes. There are a handful of people who can match Lan's skill throughout the series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that anybody can best him for a very specific reason, very late in the books.
Cool. Thanks for that.
It's awesome.
Thanks.
There's some awesome stuff.
I hate it when you do this to me.
Sorry.
Because I just want to know. It's I know a secret that you don't know. It's why bother? Why do you do this?
That one was truly an accident. I did not intend to do that.
But yeah, so...
Lan is badass.
Lan is badass.
He goes off into the Blight several times alone and just comes back covered in, steaming blood. And cuts, which Moraine does heal.
Yeah. And Mandarb also holds his own.
Yeah, Mandarb continues to be kind of a badass horse.
Yep. The picture I have in my head is of the horse from Tangled.
Yeah, just black.
Just black.
And a little bit more stubborn.
Horse punchy in the face.
Yeah.
can see Mandarb doing that.
Yeah. But so through Lan's expeditions into the Blight, we learned the Blight is really fucked up. There's some sort of weird Loch Ness monster going on in a lake.
Yep.
There's
the lakes that are around the Seven Towers.
Yep.
So for something called the Stick, that is just a tame name in comparison
it,
to
tries to reach down and eat you.
Yeah. Trees are trying to eat people. There's trees that when you cut them, they have blood that steams.
There are trees, there's basically the worst version of the Whomping Willow, which just, like, thrashes around and literally screams.
Yep.
Weird bear things with hedgehog hair and too many legs.
Oh, I missed that one. I think I was freaked out by the trees.
The Blight's fucked up.
I was kind of glossing over the descriptions of all the bad stuff.
That's fair. The Blight's fucked up.
Yeah, I was not.
And
was
you know
not
who, this is in the glossary, so I'm not going to consider it a spoiler. You know who basically made all of those things? Agonor.
Cool.
Yeah. One of the
Good
Forsaken
job,
that they
Agonor.
fight.
The other thing about the Blight is that there is just like a stench of decay around it.
Everything's rotting.
Everything's rotting. Enough that Matt throws up.
Matt seems to be the one of the three that throws up the most.
Yeah, because we were talking about last section when I thought it was like Perrin who probably threw up at something. Now I'm thinking it was Matt.
It's Matt. It's definitely Matt.
It's 1000% Matt.
Perrin seems to...
Perrin and Lan are the only ones who seem unaffected. Even Moraine looks a little bit green in Lan's. Rand is trying not to throw up. He sees Egwene and Nynaeve trying their best not to throw up. And then he looks at Lan and Perrin,
whatever.
and they're both like, okay. Which you'd think Perrin would be more effective because he's got wolf senses.
Right.
But he's fine.
I'm wondering if maybe Perrin isn't as affected because he can identify the smells.
Maybe.
It's not just straight up bad.
And then he says that even Moraine has her lips, like,
right,
pursed.
She probably has some sort of extra power-induced sense about the place, too.
Probably.
Like, Lan is fine because Lan is a badass, but also, like, he's from the Borderlands and has spent a lot of time in the Blight, so, like, he's just used to it.
Yeah.
Perrin is weird. I would expect Perrin to have more of a problem than everybody else. But again, maybe it's just he can identify it, and if you can identify it, you can suppress that urge better.
Or it could be that he was just channeling some of the wolves and trying to smell better things. I don't know how the wolf bond works, so he could be, like...
Yeah.
Channeling the wolf and then...
Would wolves be in the Blight?
No, that's what I'm saying. So if he can channel a wolf that's not in the Blight, he can smell the things that wolf is smelling.
Okay.
I don't know how wolf bonding works, so...
That's fair. We have a term for that, for what Perrin is. He's a wolf brother.
Which is not much of a term.
No, but it's kind of a fun name. Wolf brother.
Wolf brother. In that moment, now that you brought that up, so yeah, they get through the Blight, which is a terrible place, and Rand is about to turn back because he's like, if whatever we're about to go into, even the worms are terrified of, I'm going to take my chances with the worms.
Context here. They're running from the worms further into the Blight up the mountains because according to Lan and Moraine, the things that are up in the mountains are bad enough that the worms are scared of them, and the worms are like semi-immortal killing machines.
Yeah, so Rand rightfully wants to turn back. I understand.
Yep.
But then they end up in...
The Eye of the World.
The Eye of the World is just the pond. They end up in the Green Man's home, and so Rand obviously doesn't turn back, and they meet the Green Man.
And they instantly feel more at ease.
They do. It's something about the Green Man's powers. One makes it like a lush... It's like an oasis.
Yeah.
It's like an oasis in a desert. And it also seems to cut out the taint.
Yeah, Rand was experiencing... He was trying to find the flame in the void, which we haven't really talked all that much about the flame in the void, which is kind of a shame because it's a very, very interesting thing that he wrote about. Because the flame in the void is this concept where you are a flame and you put all of your emotions into it.
Yeah.
And then there's just a void around you. It's like a concentration meditation type technique.
Yeah.
Rand tries to find the flame in the void. The void. He is the flame. He tries to find the void. But it hurts. Something about the Blight makes that hurt him.
Yeah. I think I missed that part, but...
And then they get to the Green Man, and he's just like, okay, this place feels so much better.
Yeah. So they meet the Green Man, who calls Perrin Wolf Brother.
Yep.
And he also calls Rand Child of the Dragon.
Yep. Do you have a question there?
I don't have a question. That is just there are 3 things in this section that confirm a suspicion that I started to have.
Uh-huh.
Which, I mean, I thought Rand channeled with the lightning.
Yeah.
And because he's the main character of a novel, if he's the one guy who can channel, he's probably the Dragon Reborn.
That's fair.
He's the main character of a novel, and he's the one guy that can channel.
We don't necessarily have confirmation that he is the Dragon Reborn.
We don't have confirmation, but there are pieces of evidence that confirm the theory in my that just add evidence to the theory. And one of them is the fact that the Green Man calls him Child of the Dragon.
That's a specific phrase that does not mean what you think it means, but you will find out.
Okay. So just like the dragon imagery around Rand, it's like started.
There's a lot of it.
They also, the Green Man also said something about the First Covenant.
Yep.
With the children of the dragon. What is? Have we heard that before? And I just forgot.
I don't think we've heard that before in this book.
Okay. So is there anything you can give me?
No.
Okay.
That one is large amounts of spoilers.
So this is the first time we've heard it.
Yeah.
And I just every time I see a new term, I'm like, have I just forgotten what this is, or
there's a lot in this book
because there are a few times where it has been that I have just straight up forgotten something.
Yeah.
And then the Green Man makes the women flower crowns.
Yeah. He's just like strolling through his garden, picking up flowers, and he apparently has enough to where he makes 3 flower crowns and doesn't pick 2 from the same grouping of flowers and makes 3 full crowns.
Yeah.
That are like still growing.
Yeah, they're like growing into Nynaeve's braid. I
like the Green Man, and it's a shame that he dies.
I know. I was unsure if he actually died or if he just kind of grooted.
I
think
I choose to read that as he grooted.
Because that's a word.
That's a word now.
If you're not understanding what we're talking about, you know how in Guardians Groot
becomes like a tree orb.
Becomes a tree orb and then looks like he dies, but there's like one little twig left, and so he's able to grow.
Child.
Yeah.
That's a different Groot.
But it's basically the same Groot.
It's basically the same Groot.
Because it's got the personality of the original Groot.
Yeah.
And
sort of.
And Rocket is even you've got the memories of my friend and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like Groot 2.0. But I'm wondering if the Green Man is going to Green Man 2.0. No.
It's not really a spoiler if he doesn't come back. He's just gone. He's another one of the weird things about this book.
Because I feel like I'm going to have a list of things from this book, and I don't really want to touch on it too much because that does teeter into talking about the books that we haven't read yet. But yeah, I choose to believe that the Green Man will Groot at some point.
Okay. Especially
because Loyal does sing his tree song to the tree, and the tree won't be corrupted by the Blight.
Right.
So it's entirely possible that 1,000 years from now, once the events of these 14 books are over, the Green Man will come back. I choose to believe that.
Okay. Totally valid.
I need something out of this book.
There are neither beginnings nor endings to the Wheel of Time.
Exactly. The Green Man could easily come back in 1,000 years. And I choose to believe that he does, because nothing good happens in this section of the book, and I need something good to happen at the end of this book.
Even the triumph is bad.
Yeah, because it doesn't end well for Rand.
No. We'll get to
We'll get there.
There's still some important things to get to
before we get to the big thing.
So at the Green Man's house,
they get to the Eye of the World, which he does not want to go near.
No.
It's always made him feel uneasy. He wasn't really supposed to be guarding it to begin with, but whoever was creating the Eye of the World asked him to, because he was the only thing around that could possibly protect it, and they were all gonna die. So the Eye of the World is it seems like it's a pool.
Yeah.
So it's like a pool of energy.
Yeah.
And that energy is pure Sidene.
Yes. Pure, untainted Sidene.
That's what I thought, and I guess that makes sense of why there's no more pool once
the battle is done.
Once the thing happens. So they're looking at it, and Rand is really unsettled by it after a bit.
They kind of all, once they realize that it's all, once they realize what it is, they're all like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, because the point is made that it's pure, untainted Sidene, and they're still like, shit, this is evil.
Yeah, I think that's just
it could be the result of thousands of years of being told that Sidene is bad.
It's a prejudice against it, basically. So they're heading back out, and they're gonna make a plan, and then hello, there's Forsaken here, and they were guided to them by Matt's blade.
Yup, Matt's dagger strikes again, unfortunately. So the Forsaken in question here are Agonor and Balthamel, both of which are some interesting people.
But Balthamel dies.
But they both die.
Well, yeah, but Balthamel dies first, which is why I didn't even bother writing down his name.
That's fair.
Balthamel, the Green Man kills him, and then
the Green Man fucking brutalizes him, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome.
lights him on fire from the inside.
Yep.
And then the Green Man just walks over and is like, "You're plants now," and plants erupt out of Balthamel's body.
Yep.
Which is a fucking brutal way to kill someone.
Yeah, for a man who was not 15 minutes ago probably making flower crowns and just la-di-da-di-dying around his little...
Like uber druid.
Yeah, he was just like uber druid, and then all of a sudden, like, bam, mushrooms.
Mushrooms coming out of your face. Mushrooms.
Coming out of my face. Breathing.
It's bad.
Thank you.
Balthamel goes down quick, but not before he has a chance to kind of fuck up Rand a little bit, Nynaeve, and Egwene. In a very short amount of time, Balthamel fucks them up with the power.
Fucks Lan up, and then Nynaeve's like, "No, my love," and then charges at him, which is just a bad idea. Nynaeve got hit. Nynaeve officially got hit with the idiot stick. I don't think she had gotten hit by the idiot stick at all this novel.
No.
This was the moment she got hit by the idiot stick.
Yeah. Like one of 13 like magic Hitlers is staring you in the face and you charge him?
Right. So she charges him and then gets and then Egwene tries to charge at him too, and
Matt
Rand
does too. Matt and Rand both.
No, Rand doesn't charge at him. He charges at Egwene to try to get her to stop.
He like tackles Egwene, which I mean, good. That's Rand not getting hit with the idiot stick.
Yeah, he's shouting at Matt and Perrin to not attack this guy.
Rand kept his head on,
and then
till things get
Moraine,
weird.
And then Moraine is like, "Run, everyone! I'll hold him off."
No, she won't.
No, she won't.
They are much more powerful than Moraine. For context, the most powerful channeler in history was Lews Therin Telamon, the dragon. Agenor is slightly below Lews Therin. So Moraine, kind of like an average strength modern day Aes Sedai, is so far below Agenor.
Yeah.
Even Balthamel is just much, much stronger.
Yeah.
And she holds him off a little bit.
A little.
But not much.
Not much.
And she gets pretty beat up.
Because Rand is running, and then he's trying to find a way to do it, and he's like, "No, I gotta turn around because there's a cliff," and then Agenor's right behind him. And this is where things get confusing for me.
Yes.
I had not read the summary that we read from Dragon Mountain today, so that did actually answer some of my questions. That was helpful. But yeah, so Rand steals a golden cord. This is how my understanding of it is. So that Rand steals a golden cord that's coming off of Agenor, and then he ends up in a battlefield, and then he goes into a door and sees Balsamon.
Yep.
And then Nynaeve, Egwene, and his mother appear.
Yep.
But then Nynaeve and Egwene disappear.
Yep.
And then he kills Balsamon? Question mark?
It's heavily implied he didn't.
After. But in that moment,
he thinks he
thinks he killed Balsamon.
And Moraine's like, probably not. So here, there's a lot in this. Like, it's like 10 pages, and there's almost as much stuff as there is in the rest of the book in these 10 pages.
Right. Because then he ends up, he goes with Balsamon, he says some stuff to Balsamon, continuing to deny him, the recurring theme of the book. But then he has a sword, but it's made of light.
Yep.
Which I'm thinking is the sword that's not a sword.
Sure.
Is that a yes or a no?
It's a sure.
You've confirmed the other weird Min's auras.
It's a read and find out.
Okay. So, thinking that might be the sword that's not a sword from the Min's creepy aura readings.
Yep. As
we've been calling them.
Yeah.
And he, does he cut... Balsamon has a cord too, but it's black.
Yeah.
Does he cut the cord and that's what kills him, or does he just straight up stab Balsamon?
He does both.
Okay.
He cuts that black cord running from Balsamon to somewhere, and...
You probably shouldn't cut that cord.
I mean, not if you're Balsamon. What do you think the cord is?
I don't know.
Because the summary confirms...
If it's tethering him to... I thought it was tethering him to his prison, so if you cut the cord, then he's no longer tethered to his prison.
But he's still stuck in the prison?
So what was the cord?
I don't know. This is one of the weird things.
Okay.
I honestly am not entirely sure. I think the cord is a connection between Balsamon appearing in the real world and the prison.
Okay. So
one of the things at the Eye of the World is a seal in the Dark One's prison. It's broken, but clearly the Dark One isn't free yet. He's just more able to touch the world.
Now, was that seal broken by what Rand does?
It was already broken.
It was already broken when they put it in there?
No.
Okay, so it broke somehow inside the Eye of the World.
Yeah.
Before the events of this book.
Yeah. Or, well, I mean, it might have broken during the events, but how it breaks is not really important. Just that it is broken. We'll get to the dark one. So let's start breaking this down by Lan versus Agenor.
Does not go well.
It doesn't go well because what we learn here is Rand can in fact channel. The like gold white line running from Agenor is Agenor's connection to the Eye of the World. Rand taps into that and starts using Sidene somewhat unconsciously. He's really just holding it. He's not doing anything with it until the end when he makes a sword of light. But Agenor fucks up here and draws in too much because it's a massive amount of it. And Agenor basically volcanoes himself.
Okay, so that golden thing, it appeared out of nowhere, right? Like, it's that golden cord wasn't always there. So the golden cord appearing, was that him drawing off of the Eye of the World?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I kind of don't get why Agenor was. Maybe it's just a bunch of power. I don't entirely understand why Agenor is drawing off the Eye of the World. It's weird. The Eye of the World is weird.
Yeah.
But Agenor basically he volcanoes himself. He takes in too much and then burns. After the battle, when Rand is back where he was, there was just ashes from Agenor burning. And it should be noted, Agenor and Baltimore here are both kind of disfigured from their time being sealed. They know that they were sealed more closely to the actual real passage of time than the rest of the Forsaken. Although they do mention one Ishamael, who might also be free. So Balthamel is like basically like human leather.
We've heard Ishamael before.
Yes, he's the betrayer of hope from the very beginning.
Okay.
And there might be a handful of other mentions. He's a big Forsaken. But Balthamel's basically like human leather. He's got a mask on because his face is just entirely disfigured. He's lost his tongue to rot. He basically just like makes gurgling noises and laughs. Yeah. It's a good thing he died quick.
Yeah.
Agenor is like a super, super, super old man. And yeah, it's odd. They're weird. They're not good people.
No.
Agenor burns. And then Rand is transported to the battle at Tarwin's Gap, which Shinar is fighting. And Rand has kind of a breakdown there. He wants to stop the fight, but something is telling him no.
Yeah, I was really confused. So he ends up at the Battle of Tarwin's Gate. That's what that is. Yeah. And then I was confused about that too. So
it's also a little weird.
I forgot what happened already because I was confused.
He basically shows up in the middle of the battlefield, and all the Darkspawn there are like, oh, let's kill him. And
So is he actually there?
He's kind of there and not there at the same time. Like I said, things do get real weird here. I think he is there. He's just not experiencing things the same as other people do at this point.
Okay.
But the Darkspawn start to attack. They start to come down on him, and he brings down a bunch of lightning and opens a ravine.
Okay.
And annihilates the Darkspawn army.
Yep.
Because later, when they're back in Faldara, Lord Agelmar's like, the Creator helped us win that fight.
Okay.
That's what he's referring to there. Rand showing up and annihilating an army.
Yeah. So definitely Rand can channel.
Definitely Rand can channel. After that, Balsamon shows up and is like, we're going to talk now, and you're going to serve me.
And he's like, no.
And he summons images of people he loves. And he summons an image of Carrie Althor, Rand's mother that he didn't know, and tortures her.
Well, it seems like he kind of says that I've been torturing her and she's serving me.
Right.
She's been serving me since her death.
Right.
And Rand is like, nah.
I'm
gonna free my mom.
For once, Rand is also kind of like, nah, you're lying.
Yeah.
Come on. You should have gotten that way earlier.
Yeah.
Then he cuts that black cord, which I think is just Balsamon's connection to the Dark One. They're kind of the same thing, but the Dark One's bigger than just one person.
Okay. I thought Balsamon just was the Dark One.
Sort of.
Because later, when Rand uses the Dark One's real name...
Moraine's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah. How did he learn that?
It's just kind of known.
Oh, okay. So is it kind of like everyone knows it's Voldemort, but they call him...
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was that or if it was he somehow learned the real name. And it's no one knows who the real name is. Unless...
No, everyone knows the Dark One is Shaitan.
Okay.
You're just not supposed to say it because that's supposed to draw his attention. And Moraine tells him not to because she's not convinced he's dead.
Right. He thinks that he is.
I mean, with pretty good reason. Cutting that cord seemed to really hurt him. And then he got stabbed with a sword of light.
Right.
Which is the kind of thing that ends big bads.
Yeah. So then he thinks he killed Balsmon, goes back, Agnor's dead.
Yep.
He finds Moraine and Nynaeve and Egwene, and they all know somehow that he channeled the One Power.
I think he tells Moraine.
When it seemed like to me when he showed up, they already knew.
Oh, yeah, that's also entirely possible.
And then Egwene is like, "Oh God, I'm terrified, but also I've decided I don't care." Like, within, like, a couple seconds of it.
Sort of. It definitely seems to go back and forth rapidly.
Yeah. The other weird thing about that is it seems like he lost his memory.
He got hit real hard.
But his, like, the way his inner monologue pace was changed, like, his verbiage changed, and, like, he called Egwene the girl with, like, it seemed like he forgot who Egwene was.
I think that's just...
That
might just be clunky writing here. Or, like, that's a difficult thing to write. I think he just got hit. He got hit so hard that he was knocked back and knocked unconscious for a while.
It seemed like he was an entirely different person in this.
Okay.
Like he lost his memory and therefore lost his personality for a bit.
Okay.
Which could be that he lost his memory or lost his touch with himself and that's a weird way to say that, but, like, lost his...
Channeling Sidene does make you go mad. Although, I would think that actually Rand channeling here didn't hurt him.
I don't think so, and I think it's because...
He's channeling
pure
untainted Sidene.
Right.
From the Eye of the World.
And he used it up.
Yeah, it's gone.
But, yeah, so they go through the One Power, and Moraine says that she realized that he could probably channel when all the way back at the beginning when they were on the run, and Bella, when Queen Bella, the creator, didn't need any help or didn't need her exhaustion waived because it had already been waived.
She wasn't just great, although she is. Rand had actually been so desperate in that moment that...
To make sure that Egwene didn't fall behind.
Right.
That he was the one who wiped away Bella's
exhaustion. Was another thing that Moraine identified as why she thought it might be Rand, which is that Rand was more resistant to her sort of kind of suggestions through the coin. Matt and Perrin were like, okay, let's go. You know, we're just going to go. But Rand was always like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And something about being in contact with the One Power, as we've established, gives Rand some extra, like, mental abilities.
Yeah, he seems to have some extra stuff going on. And Nynaeve is kind of like, I'm wary of you. Like, you're still Rand, but you're also terrifying.
Nynaeve backs up. And
she's like
visibly recoils from him.
Yeah, and she does say, like, you are still Rand from the Two Rivers, but also you're terrifying.
But also you're a future volcano.
Yeah, and Egwene's like, scared. I love you. Scared.
Yeah.
I love you. Back and forth, which, like, fair, honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
he's a future volcano.
He's a future volcano.
We've known 4 men who can channel, character-wise. 2 of them have been forsaken, so they don't count. One of them is Rand, who has, at this point, has only channeled pure Sidene. Or, well, he's only knowingly channeled pure Sidene. Clearly, he's channeled tainted Sidene before.
Yeah. And
the other one is Luz Theron Kinslayer, who killed his family and turned into a volcano.
And,
Owen.
And Logain.
Logain, too. There were a lot more men who could channel in this book than I thought there were. But all of them have been dangerous, except for Owen.
Yeah.
Who was just kind of a kid. But all of them have been dangerous.
Yeah. And then Rand says something about not being used as a false dragon, and I don't understand who he's talking. He seems like he's targeting that at Moraine. Like, Moraine, I won't let you...
I think Moraine is just kind of a stand-in for the Amerlin Seat, all Aes Sedai.
What does he think they're gonna do? Be like, oh, this is a dragon, and then kill him? Like, is that what... I'm confused at...
He thinks that they're going to use him to further their goals, whatever they may be. They're Aes Sedai. They have kind of inscrutable goals, and then capture and gentle him, which is, supposed to basically, like, take the color out of life.
Yeah. He doesn't want that.
No. Which, fair.
Yep, fair. But she says that she basically says they're not going to.
She's not.
And then she says that Lan knows, but Matt and Perrin don't and won't until the pattern decides.
Which is just kind of like
is Moraine saying...
If it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
Okay. And one thing that I think cements Lan's status as a god amongst men is...
He doesn't act any different.
Rand thinks that Lan is the only person for whom Rand's ability to channel changes nothing about the way Lan sees him.
Yeah.
Which, like, yeah.
He doesn't act out. He doesn't. There's a moment where he's like, he doesn't act outwardly any different to me. But also, I don't think it changed anything inside his head either.
Right, and we get a little bit later where Rand is actually training with the sword, and Lan's just like, do what you want to do, but if you want to learn how to use that sword, you'll stay with me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, go Lan.
Lan is a god amongst men.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to be bothered by men having strange powers.
No. He reads poetry.
He was fine with Perrin being a wolf brother. He doesn't mind that Rand is a child of the dragon and can channel and is probably the dragon reborn.
Who knows what other surprises Lan has in store. He's a man of mystery.
It's poetry. I love Lan.
Lan's great.
Except I'm mad at him too, but I also love him. I just want him to have happiness.
That's
I'm mad at him for getting in the way of his own happiness.
fair.
Which is how I always feel at about the 75 to 85% mark of a romance novel.
You're in for a ride.
It's gonna take so much longer. And I think that was why that's why I had to put the book down and recover emotionally from that line. Because if I had read that line in a romance novel, I know by the end of the book, they're gonna get together.
Not here.
Not here. I don't know when it's gonna happen.
No, you don't.
No. So everyone comes out, and they say, like, the eye is gone, and they come out with 3 things.
Yes.
Matt is holding some broken pottery. Loyal has a giant golden chest that only he would be able to carry. Not even Lan can do that. Lan's not that great.
No, Lan is not a 10-foot tall ogier.
Which I guess is more Taviran moment that they needed someone strong enough to carry.
I mean, they could have just taken
chest.
the thing out of the chest.
They could have, but golden chest is cool.
It's true.
And then a white banner.
Yep.
The pottery ends up being, I'm not gonna pronounce that right.
Quendiar.
Sure.
Heartstone.
Which was one of the 7 seals in the Dark One's prison that we mentioned was broken.
Yep. They do. The reason why it's weird that it was broken is Quendiar is supposed to be unbreakable. Nothing breaks it. Everything you throw at it only makes it stronger, including the one power. It's just immune to damage, and it's broken. So it's like, okay, this is real.
How did it break? Do we never find out? Do we find out how it broke?
More or less.
Okay. Because if you have an unbreakable material, I need to know how it broke. That's just a question that I need answers to by the end of the 14 books.
More or less, we figure out why it's broken.
Okay. The golden chest has the horn of Valir.
Fucking insane artifact.
Yeah, which again, it's like
there's a whole bunch of lore around it.
It's kind of like the chalice. Like, is it in the sense of like the chalice? Not
the chalice.
Like the Last Supper chalice that people don't know if it exists or not.
Well, yeah, okay, in that sense, yes. It's definitely like the Holy Grail.
It's like the Holy Grail, thank you. Yeah, it seems like the Horn of Valir is like the Holy Grail.
Right.
And that people aren't sure it exists. There's a whole bunch of lore around it. People keep going and searching for it.
There's the Great Hunt for the Horn.
Yeah.
In Ilion, which is where they end up wanting to take it.
Yes.
And basically what the Horn of Valir does, thanks to Lord Egilmar, who provides some exposition at the end, the Horn summons dead heroes to fight for the person who blew the horn.
Cool.
There's a whole bunch. We learn a lot more about the Horn.
It sounds a little creepy.
It is, but also it's kind of like good ghosts.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And then the banner that they find is Luz Theron's personal banner, the Banner of the Dragon, which has like a yin-yang symbol and a dragon, like a Chinese-style red dragon across it.
Which, yikes. Nothing good comes out of this eye.
I mean, plenty of good comes out of this eye. The Horn of Valir is like an amazing artifact.
Yeah, but like, it's just overall, the things they find in the eye of the world are not great.
They're left in a much worse situation, I feel. Like, it feels like they're in a better situation, because like, yeah, they beat Balsamon, and the Blight was driven back, but Rand is basically has to exile himself.
Yeah, so we get there, like we mentioned, Loyal sings a song to protect the Green Man's tree grave, which was great. It seems like the Blight is recovering, because when they're traveling through, it's a little less decayed than it was before, and then the Blight was pushed back a bit, and now spring is happening. And they get to Faldara, where they find out that there was a victory at Tarwin's Gap.
Yep.
Because
Rand just annihilated an army.
They are going to bring the horn to Ilion, and Rand decides that he's going to go off on his own.
Yep.
He tells Egwene this, because Egwene's trying to convince him to go to Tar Valon. Maybe they can teach him, even though Moraine has already said, I can't teach you because I only know how to channel Sadir.
Yeah.
so I can't...
Yeah, she's only able to channel Sidar, and she compares it to, like, a bird teaching a fish to fly.
Yeah,
like
it just doesn't work.
They're similar, but not similar enough to where one can teach the other.
And
apparently Maureen was eavesdropping on that conversation. The stone that she wears like a diadem, basically, and that stone doesn't do anything. It's just a trick she picked up.
So she was eavesdropping on that conversation, in which, because at the very end, she like has a moment where she's like, the dragon has been reborn.
Yeah.
And she thinks it's Rand.
Yeah.
I am inclined to agree with her.
Totally fair.
Just even like taking aside the fact that he's the main character in a book. He has been able to channel.
Yep.
He was called the Child of the Dragon. There's just a whole lot of dragon around him.
Yeah.
He's one of these 3 boys that keeps getting messages from the Dark One.
Yep. And
when he was having some of his dreams, Balsamon recited all these names of previous false dragons, and he recited it to all 3 of them, but that's because he didn't know which one was the dragon reborn. Yeah. I think Balsamon was on the hunt for the dragon reborn, and he picked that it was one of these 3 boys.
That's a fair assumption.
And if he thinks that it's one of these 3 boys, it's probably the one who can channel.
Yeah. Luz Theron, the dragon, could channel.
Yep, and then he turned into a volcano.
Mr. Volcano Man himself.
So yeah, I think that Rand is probably the dragon.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
There's a lot more books. It won't take that long to get a definitive answer.
I hope not. I hope we get one by next book.
Pretty sure we do.
Cool.
So that was this section. Since we've done the whole book, is there anything from the book as a whole that we should talk about?
Probably. I think you had mentioned that we didn't talk a lot about the flame and the void. I think that's going to end up being more of a thing. I think there are lots of questions that I still have, I think is where I might want to take...
It's a book of questions.
Where I might want to take this. And knowing that it's a 14-book series, I know that hopefully Robert Jordan's editor, and later Brandon Sanderson's editor, went through all these 14 books and wrote down the questions that arised during the 14 books and made sure there was a resolution to all those questions by the end of the 14 books.
Most questions have resolutions.
Because that was something I learned. I was taking a master class with Dan Brown, and he said one thing that I do and my editor does in my books is every time something gets brought up, we write it down. And I have to make sure that I've answered that question by the end of the book.
Yeah.
This is a series, so you don't have to answer it by the end of the book.
No.
But I have several questions that I hope get resolved at some point.
Okay.
We need to figure out what Tam's situation is.
Yep.
Why he has the Heron marked sword. Mm-hmm. How he learned about the flame and the void. Rand's mother. Could she channel?
Good question.
Does
Rand's mother Carrie or his birth mother? Because you're fairly convinced that he wasn't born to Tam and Carrie Althor.
Right. So figuring out who Rand's parents are. Because Carrie Althor was an Outlander, but they were already married when they found Rand.
Yeah, he came back with Carrie and Rand.
So, yeah, figuring out that whole storyline.
Okay.
Haven't quite figured that out yet.
We have kind of outstanding stuff that we hopefully learn more about. I will neither confirm nor deny if we do. The Warder Bond has been kind of a question that we've had.
Yes, the Warder Bond I have questions on.
Perrin's wolf abilities, which, I mean, seem pretty straightforward, but
there are some unresolved things, like Tom is unresolved.
Is he dead? Is he not dead?
Right.
Who can say? I can say.
There are a lot of characters that were introduced that I just have questions on, and we'll get into that a little bit when we go into my predictions for the next book of like what I think is going to be answered more immediately.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't think we've seen the last of Tam. I think that's one of the bigger points from the beginning of the book that we stopped talking about because it wasn't really...
They left the Two Rivers and Tam.
They left the Two Rivers, yeah. But Rand needs to figure out what his deal is.
He really does. He is conflicted.
And I think that's I think he's going to go try to figure that out. But
okay.
I think that's my biggest thing from the beginning of the book is that to bring back to remind
I think
myself and you all
I think
out
something
there.
Else outlying is the deal with Matt's dagger. He still has it. It's clearly leading Forsaken to them. which is bad.
Yes.
How's that going to get dealt with?
And I think that we can go into the book 2 predictions from there, is that I don't know that Rand is going to get his dagger bond severed in Tar Valon in the next book.
Okay.
It seems like it would be a little too neat.
Sure.
Or at least it's going to take a hell of a lot longer than they think it's going to, and the dagger's going to cause more problems for them. It is a really convenient problem.
It is.
Writing-wise.
Yeah, it draws
it's like,
evil
like,
things to
well,
them.
crap. Like, I need a reason for the Forsaken to be able to get into the Green Man's home. Ah, Matt's got this creepy dagger.
Yep.
Just literally, like, that and Taviran can explain a whole lot of stuff.
It really can. Even if they didn't have the dagger, it could be, well, it's 3 Taviran.
Yeah.
We're real old and know how to do things with the power.
I don't think that Moraine is going to let Rand out of her grasp, despite what Rand thinks. Because when he's talking to Egwene, and Egwene's like, but why are you going to leave? And Rand's like, she doesn't even notice I'm alive anymore. I've served her purpose. She's not going to notice if I leave. I'm sorry, you're a man who can channel. She's not letting you out of her sight.
No.
Like, what part of your history together do you think that Moraine's just gonna let you go off on your own?
Yeah.
They literally sent hundreds of Red Aja to go capture Logain.
Not hundreds, just a bunch. I don't think there are hundreds.
Well, I sent a bunch to go hunt Logain. They're gonna do the same to you. Moraine's not gonna keep the fact that you can channel a secret.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like, she might for a bit, but she doesn't necessarily, like, there is nothing about how men channeling in this universe, there's nothing in that history for men channeling that would make Moraine think, oh, maybe he's different.
No.
It's like, just because she's like, you are Taviran, so maybe there's...
And, like, maybe if he was trained and just hung around the Eye of the World for a long time and was able to only ever draw on pure sighting, but it got used up and he's untrained.
Right. So I don't think she's gonna let him go. Somehow, even if Moraine doesn't tell anyone that he can channel, Rand is dumb.
Rand is dumb. He's also Taviran.
He's also Taviran. Someone's gonna find out. And even if he wasn't dumb, he's still Taviran. And 2, he's gonna get more channeling sickness. He's gonna accidentally channel, and then he's gonna get channeling sickness again.
Maybe it does go away. Like, Moraine doesn't get channeling sickness anymore.
Because she learned how to channel it. Remember what she was saying to Nynaeve and Egwene is that if you don't learn how to channel, eventually the time period between you channeling and getting channeling sickness gets shorter and shorter until you die.
Right, except Nynaeve has been through that, and now if Nynaeve manages to channel somehow, she's still untrained. She can channel unconsciously without getting channeling sickness. She's been through it. It's one of those things where, like, it either kills you or it doesn't.
And I don't necessarily know that it wouldn't. We don't know that it wouldn't possibly do that to Rand.
That's true.
But even if he does manage to get past it, he's gonna get channeling sickness again because he continues to.
I think he might be done with channeling sickness now.
Maybe.
I think.
But if he's not, I don't know that. I don't think that he is.
Maybe that last bit at the Eye of the World was like his final channeling sickness thing.
He does throw up pretty immediately.
Yeah, he throws up and he loses his memory for a little bit.
But
I still think that's from getting rocked
probably
by Balsamon. But
he's gonna get channeling sickness again and he do something dumb to draw attention to himself.
It is Rand.
It's Rand. He's gonna.
He doesn't like climb the idiot tree as often as Matt does, but he does sometimes walk into it.
And speaking of Rand channeling, I think we've talked about, like, the several times that, like, now that we know we can channel.
Yeah. There are 3 specific times he channels in this book.
One we get confirmed by Moraine is that the Bella thing.
Bella.
I already guessed one of them, which was the lightning hitting very specifically. But thinking about the times, like, if you just extrapolate for times that Rand was really dumb and it seemed to come out of nowhere, you can figure... If you backtrack from that moment, you can figure out when Rand channeled. Yeah. So I think
there is one that is very easy to miss, though.
That's why I had to, like, in my thought process of trying to figure out when else he channeled in this book, I was like, all right, well, when was Rand really dumb? When he was on the boat and he's just climbing up on the rafters and swinging around like a dumbass.
Yep.
So he probably channeled somehow before, like.
He channeled
quickly or before then, and I think it was probably when the boon just came and, like, smacked someone off the boat. Easy to miss because it could literally just be someone let go of a rope on accident because Trollocs were attacking.
Right.
And it caused a boon to go off. But that weird circumstance happening combined with the fact that he was acting recklessly.
Yeah. And he gets channeling sickness after all 3 times he channels. After Bella, he's kind of crazy in Berlon after...
That's when he has the white cloaks thing.
Yeah, after he boards the spray, he is very reckless climbing the, rigging. And after he makes lightning, he literally falls sick.
Yeah, and I think the other 2 times they were such small channelings, which was why he probably just had bouts of recklessness, but the lightning is pretty big.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that he falls ill this time.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any other book 2 predictions? I have a question on one of your predictions, but we'll get to that.
So I want there to be Lan and Nynaeve resolution, but I don't think it's going to happen. I actually more have a lot of things that I don't think are going to happen in book 2 than I do actual book 2 predictions.
That's fair. So the question I have about your book 2 predictions is, do you don't think that Matt's going to have his dagger problem solved in The Great Hunt? Do you think he will ever have it solved?
I hope so.
Okay. Is he just periodically going to have to come in for evil dialysis?
I hope he doesn't have to come in for evil chemo.
Yeah, that'd be very inconvenient for him.
Right. But yeah, I think he will at some point, but it's not going to be I would be sorely disappointed if in the beginning of the next book they get to Tarvalin and they're just like, okay, you're healed now.
Especially with how long it took them to get to fucking Camelin.
Right. If he gets healed of his dagger bond before we hit the halfway point of the Great Hunt, I think I'm going to be disappointed.
Okay.
I think it would have been rushing that storyline.
Totally fair.
My other actual prediction is that we are probably going to see Elaine and Gawain in the next book.
Okay.
And that goes along with I don't think Moiraine's going to let Rand out of her grasp. So Rand's going to end up going to Tarvalin and he's going to see Elaine and Gawain again.
Okay. That is where they're headed.
That's where Elaine and Gawain are headed.
Yeah.
And I think that's if Rand is the dragon, I think that's where him meeting with Logain would be how it gets confirmed. I can see, because Logain's going to Tarvalin with Elaine and Gawain.
Yep.
So yeah, if Rand is indeed the Dragon Reborn, I think he is, I feel like
he's going to end up going to Tarvalin.
He's going to end up going to Tarvalin, and it would make sense that meeting Logain is how they figure that out.
Okay.
Which is how I also think that him being the Dragon Reborn is not going to stay a secret to just Moiraine.
Sure.
Because if he's in Tarvalin, the other Aes Sedai are going to find out that he can channel.
Yeah.
That he's going to do something. Something is going to happen. Or maybe they can just read it on him now.
Maybe.
He's
There is the Red Aja dedicates themselves to hunting down men who can channel, and maybe they have ways of detecting it.
And Moiraine was able to sense that Egwene and Nynaeve both were able to channel, and she didn't watch them channel. She just sensed it about them.
She notably could not sense it about Rand, though. She could only guess.
Well, he hadn't channeled yet.
Egwene hadn't.
Hadn't she?
No. Not at that point.
When was the first time Egwene channeled then?
I think she channeled briefly when Moiraine was giving her, minor lessons. She,
okay, so that was the first time that she channeled. She didn't accidentally channel.
Right.
Which is maybe how she was able to avoid channeling sickness.
She hadn't channeled yet, and Moiraine was guiding her.
Yeah, so that's how she was
I also think maybe Egwene was going through some channeling sickness, because she gets kind of, irrationally angry at Rand at one point. In Berlon, she, is, right on the border of having good points and just kind of doing what Rand was doing, which was, being a little crazy. Yeah. About the same time, and it's about the same time frame. And she wasn't doing it as much, which I think is why it maybe goes unnoticed, because it's not that far out of what she would do. But she definitely is quicker to anger with Rand in Berlon than she is for the rest of the series.
That's fair.
I don't know if that's a confirmed thing or not. That's just maybe my guess.
Yeah. And then I feel like it might not happen in this next book, but we haven't seen the last of Tom or Elias.
Okay.
I don't think Tom is dead. No one thinks Tom is dead
No,
besides Rand and Matt.
Yeah, which they have pretty good reason to think.
They did think they watched him possibly die.
Most people can't take a fade.
But the logic behind, the innkeeper that doesn't think Tom is dead, that could just be, he's my friend, I don't think he's dead.
Yeah.
But Moiraine has an actual logical reason as to why she thinks that Tom isn't dead.
Yeah.
And that if the fade had killed him, the people in Whitebridge would have been talking about it.
That's true. Although they were kind of being weirdly suspicious of outsiders.
They were, but I understand her logic, and I tend to agree.
That's fair. She's a very logical
So we haven't seen the last of Tom. Elias is alive, and I don't think that the point of him previously being a warder would have been brought up if we were never going to see him again.
Okay.
You could have just let him be the wolf
guy. That's true.
why give him that storyline and not bring him back up again?
Yeah.
And same with Tam. It's like...
Tam's got too much interesting backstory to let it go.
Right. We are going to see him again.
Very fair. And I think all of those are interesting predictions. I can't say whether or not they're good, because that might lead you to believe some things over some other things that may or may not happen in a very carefully crafted sentence. Yeah, so this is book 1. We're done with the book.
Yep. So we can go into our recurring segments. Weird prophetic aura. I think that Rand's light sword was probably the sword that isn't a sword, but I have a question mark next to that because it hasn't been confirmed.
Yeah.
And there are so many things that could mean a sword is not the sword that's not a sword.
Maybe it's not just one thing either. Although I feel like then it would be multiple swords that aren't swords.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So there's that.
Yeah. Final ship updates for the book.
Final standings. Lan and Nynaeve.
Yep. Officially a ship.
Officially.
In the book and for you, I think.
I officially ship it.
Yep.
I do wonder about how the warder bond between him and Moiraine is going to play into that,
I can confirm we learn a lot more about the warder bond.
In the next book?
I don't know if it's in the next book or not.
But we just learn a lot more about it.
We do learn a lot more about the warder bond.
And then I think I'm falling into the Perrin and Egwene camp.
Okay.
I remember that from our previous discussions, and it kind of falls by the wayside with the ending of the book.
Well, there's some things going on.
There's some things going on, and I think that, especially if Rand is going off on his own, and he knows that him and Egwene aren't meant to be together because of the weird prophetic aura dreams.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm feeling the Perrin and Egwene. I'm not I ship it. I'm not oh my god, I ship it.
Okay.
It's I enjoy the ship. I would like it to happen.
Sure.
If it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be devastated.
Sure.
And I hope that Rand gets to see Elaine again.
It was a fun interaction.
There's a potential ship there.
Okay, cool. So our last recurring segment, we usually do favorite moments. This time we're going to do it in 2. We're going to have favorite moments for this section and then for the whole book. What was your favorite moment from this section? Or moments?
I think from this section, Loyal saying that he might head back to the steading and never leave again if traveling with this group gets any more exciting.
Yeah.
But then he cracks a smile and he's like, good to see you again, Rand. It was just...
Yeah.
Loyal's
great. Loyal is... We have Lan, a god amongst men, and Loyal is a god amongst Ogier, even though you haven't met any other Ogier.
And then the green man making the women flower crowns.
Just kind of idly while talking.
Just wholesome.
Yeah.
It's one of those... That's, I think, and I really like that about the book in general, is that there are those little moments spread throughout.
Yeah.
And they might be easy to miss if you're not taking your time reading how we have, but they still, you wouldn't remember them if you weren't taking 10 episodes to talk about it.
Yeah.
But they do provide those levity moments that just stick in your brain.
It's the little things that kind of cut through the dire circumstances of the whole thing.
Won't remember them individually, but you'll remember, but there were light moments to counteract the dark, and I liked that about this book.
Right. Especially with how it ends, with Rand being Rand's kind of impending madness and him going off on his own, and things don't end in a particularly great place for the characters, even though it feels like it maybe ends in a great place for the world.
But, and even besides, I'm talking light moments throughout the book.
Right.
You might not remember what they were specifically, but you'll remember that they were there.
Yeah.
And this is one of those.
Rand keeps getting scarves.
Yeah,
that's fun. And people keep helping him by giving him a thing to, and not like food or shelter or anything, but a thing to keep him warm. I think has a lot. It has different meaning to it.
So from this section, what is your favorite
moment?
I
really only have one, and that's just kind of because the whole thing melds together for me. And my favorite moment is Loyal Tree singing at the end.
Okay, yeah.
He clearly has a lot of respect for the Green Man
as
somebody who has a large amount of control around plant life. And so Loyal singing to make him this one spot in the Blight to be his resting place that won't fall to him.
And it takes him a long time, too.
It does. And he's
exhausted after.
Yeah, he's sweating, and he's I've never sung that much before. It's nice.
Yeah. For the whole book, I think my favorite moment is just the quote of Lan is like an onion. Because it just encompasses Lan, and I think he's my favorite part of this book.
Your favorite moment is Lan.
My favorite moment is Lan.
Yep. Okay. Very fair. Lan's great. Lan is a god amongst men. My favorite moment is Rand falling into the Andoran palace and hitting every branch on the idiot tree on the way down. It's great. It introduces us to Elaine and Gawain. It introduces us to so many interesting characters. Even just in the short interaction that we have, there's a lot going on there. And it's really interesting, and I like it. Good.
It's a good moment.
Yeah. So this was episode 10, the last episode of this season. We're doing something a little different. Dallas, You want to explain?
So we will be back in 1 month with Season 2, The Great Hunt. However, we will still be uploading an episode in 2 weeks. Since I am reading something that Will has never read before, we thought it would be fun as a break in between seasons to give me a bit of a break with this book so that I can just take a breather before diving in with the next one. We thought it would be fun to have him read a book that I've read before. And as I've mentioned, I basically just read romance novels, which means that Will is going to be reading a romance novel. And not just any romance novel, but my favorite romance novel and the New York Times best-selling novel, Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston.
Yep.
I'm so excited. Are you excited?
Sure. I don't really have any opinion on it, but sure. You talk about it enough, it'll be nice to know what's going on.
Yep. So we will be back in 2 weeks with that, and I hope you join us.
Bye.
Bye.